Good evening to all people out there who are watching and who will be watching this video. Good evening to all of you. I am here to pronounce that God is coming very, very soon, and He is inviting everybody to come to Him, to be closer to Him, and to follow His will written in the Bible. And this evening, as part of my meditation and devotional, I intend to do it online, or to record it through video recording, in order for me to share what is my devotional this time. So I am so very happy throughout the day's work. My duty is very successful. I can say it is very successful because the Lord has accompanied me throughout the day's work. And now I am reading in the book of John chapter 15, verses 1 to 8. By the way, this chapter is all about the vine. Who is this vine and who are the branches? And I am reading at this very moment John chapter 15, verses 1 to 8. And the text say, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, He takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, He prunes, that it may bear more fruit. You know, it deals about taking away those branches that did not bear fruit. You know, taking away of branches that did not bear fruit is not actually a negative. It's not a negative endeavor, but it is a positive one, so that the tree could not be down, or could not be destroyed because of these branches who are not bearing more fruits. Actually, branches who are not bearing more fruits are those branches who are dying. So what the Lord is telling us this evening is that branches who are dying is very disastrous to the entire tree. So in order for God to protect the entire tree, He will sacrifice those branches who are dying, that do not bear fruit. If we are not bearing fruit for the Lord, it is an evidence that we are dying. And if we are dying in our spiritual journey, in our spiritual growth, we are not maturing in the faith and in the grace of God. By faith, we are prone to be disastrous to the entire system of God's work. So in order for God to protect the system of His work, He will take away the branch that does not bear fruit. What was really inspires me is that the branch that bears fruit, the Bible is telling us He prunes. Pruning is sometimes, it hurts. When God prunes something from you, it hurts. But don't you know, pruning is a kind of God's way of helping a person grow spiritually and be productive in the work. That is pruning. Sometimes He prunes our being paranoid. Sometimes He prunes our being low self-esteem. Sometimes He prunes our attitude of being proud, arrogant, bastard. Sometimes He prunes our being unloving, uncareful, or bombastic. Sometimes He prunes that for us to be mature and be productive in His work. That is God's way of allowing this person to grow so that he will bear much fruit. That's actually good news, that we must be submissive to God's pruning in order for us to grow spiritually and to be productive in any endeavor that we are with. Sometimes we hurt of the way God prunes us, disciplines us, strengthens us, purifies us, corrected us. Sometimes we need to appreciate God's pruning. I need to appreciate God's way of pruning myself for me to be suited to that work. We are not holy, God's work is holy, so we must cloth on to that holiness of His work. So in order for us to be acquainted with, in order for us to be clothed with this holy work of God, we must be under the pruning system of God. The Bible continues, "You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me." Don't you know? Do you think deeply what the text is telling us? The text is telling us, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine. Who is that vine? Jesus. Meaning, the branch that does not bear fruit does not have Jesus. Meaning, the branch that does not bear fruit does not abide in Jesus. So, not abiding in Jesus is falling away from the faith. Not abiding in Jesus is staying away from Jesus. Not abiding in Jesus is an evidence that we must be taken away from that tree. That is an evidence. We are not taken away from the tree because that's God's will. But we are taken away from the tree because that is what we did. That is what we want. That is what we work to. We were taken away from the tree because God sees in us that we are not abiding in Him anymore. So, not abiding in Jesus is staying away from Jesus. Not abiding from Jesus is falling from the faith. Not abiding in Jesus is not bearing fruit. And that abiding in Jesus is more disastrous than the person without Jesus. If you are the hindrance for the Lord's work, God cannot tolerate that. You must be taken away from the tree. I hope you get it, my friend. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered. And they gathered them and threw them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you will be my disciples. Don't you know that bearing much fruit is glorifying the Father? If you bear much fruit, it doesn't mean that you yourself must be glorified. You need to put in your mind that you are bearing fruit because you are glorifying the Father. You are glorifying God. Unless you bear much fruit, you are not glorifying the Father, because glorifying the Father is always telling us that it constitutes with bearing much fruit. So I am so happy with that. And then, if we continue abiding in Jesus, if His words remain in us, the Bible is telling us, ask everything you desire and it will be done for you. What a good news. What a good promise of God to all His children. So this evening, my friend, I am inviting you to abide in Jesus. Remain in His Word, and all things that you desire will be done to you by God if you remain in Him. So abide in Jesus, remain in His Word, accept His pruning, accept His way of disciplining, because that is one way of helping you grow. That is one way of helping you bearing much fruit. That is one way of helping you being mature in the faith, in His work. And don't you know, when God prunes something out of you, that means He loves you so much. He wants you to be productive. He wants you to be with Him. He wants you to be His ambassadors, His productive ambassadors. God bless you and good night.